Buy me some peanuts and cracker jack. I don't care if I never get back. Let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
5:05. Shall we kick it off? Let's do it. I think I can. Here we go. There. I think I just controlled who is your main speaker screen. I just want to welcome everybody very quickly and thank you for coming. And to baseball fans, history fans, baseball history fans, everyone, thank you for coming together on this very snowy day to daydream of baseball and summer and warmth and the smells of hot dogs and stale beer, everything wonderful about simpler times. We are here today, and we're lucky to have with us Professor John Sillito. He's a retired history professor from Weber State University. He specializes in sports history, surprise, surprise, and Utah politics. And he's been a lifelong baseball fan, of course. In fact, he's currently writing a biography of his childhood hero, R.C. Stevens, who played for the Salt Lake Bees from 1958 to 1960. But maybe the most important thing you need to know about John Sillito is that he batted .325 on his 6th grade baseball team. So without further ado, he is going to introduce us to a quick history of baseball and some of its most famous characters for about half an hour. Feel free, if you have questions as you go ahead and throw them in the chat and I will be watching that and we can bring those questions up to him at the end. And we can also open it up to all kinds of questions about baseball and nostalgia and the greatest players and anything you want at the end of the talk. For everybody who sadly couldn't make it tonight, we're also recording the slides and John's voice so that we will post it, we'll edit it and we'll post it to YouTube later on. Okay, without further ado, let me turn it over to John. Okay, so John, now I'm going to put you in the spotlight. Did that work? Is he in everyone's spotlight? Awesome.
Yep,
take it away, John.
Well, I can still see 6 of you, so do I need to go up and go like this? No.
You don't have to. You can have it be just you, or you could have the grid and see everybody's faces while you're talking if you want to.
Okay. Well, let me get started. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about baseball today. Pitchers and catchers reported, I understand, to spring training. Today, it's going to be a different season than it's ever been before, including last year. So let's talk a little bit about the past. Baseball and softball have always been important in Ogden and Weber County. Over the years, there have been teams associated with the Farm Bureau, with various high schools, individual churches, Weber State, and a number of semi-pro teams as well. Sometime early in the 20th century, the Kansas City Red Sox played an exhibition game here in Ogden that featured the legendary Casey Stengel while he was still in high school. And Ogden participated in some early minor leagues. These teams included the Ogden Lobsters. I have no idea where that name came from. Notice the businesses on their uniforms. The Ogden Canners, that makes sense because of the canning industry. And the Ogden Gunners, which also makes sense because of Browning Arms. So between 1900 and 1914 and then 1926 and 1928, these teams played. These games were played at Glenwood Park at 27th Street between Washington and Grant, and Loren Farr Park near 1600 Gramercy. Later, there were games at what was called Ready Kilowatt Park near 16th and Brinker. It was said that because that was located near the mouth of the canyon, it was often windy, and one story holds that a gust of wind knocked the pitcher off the mound. Well, I don't know, maybe. What I want to talk about today are the 3 R's of the last 70 years: Robinson, Rickey, and the Raptors. First, some thanks to Sarah Langston of Weaver Special Collections and the Heritage Foundation's troika of technological talent, Kate, Katie, and Shelby. We begin with the Pioneer League, which lasted from 1939 to 42, then 1946 to 1920. Ogden was an original member and one of the most consistent in that league, fielding teams in 1939 to 42, 1946, 1955, 1966, 69, and most recently 1994 to 2020. In the first period of Pioneer League baseball, Ogden's chief rival was Salt Lake City. Most of that time, the games were played at Affleck Field. A local grocer by the name of Gomer Nicholas donated the land and named it after his uncle, John Affleck, who had nothing to do with baseball, but was a local individual. The field, which is very unique, very different, most fields don't do this, faced toward the west. So in the evening, the sun would be coming down in your eyes. They had the mountains behind it, which was a bad choice because that was clearly the backdrop you wanted to see. Affleck held 2,500 or 3,500 fans, depending on which account you accept. It was a spacious park. It was a pitcher's park with 395 to left, 398 to center, and 375 to right. During that early period of the Pioneer League, one of the finest players to ever appear in Ogden, and indeed in baseball, was Frank Robinson. He was born in Texas, and after his parents' divorce, his mother moved to California, and they settled in West Oakland, where Frank attended McClymonds High School. At McClymonds, Coach George Powles took young Frank under his wing. Powles was a former minor league player, later a major league scout. In addition to the McClymonds team, Powles also coached American Legion teams and a semi-pro Dahl Drug Company team. Robinson played on both of those. Of that semi-pro team, 14 of the 25 players ultimately played professionally. So these were good ball players. Robinson also played at that time with two future major leaguers, Vada Pinson and Kurt Flood. And he appeared on several all-city baseball teams. Besides baseball, he played high school basketball with the legendary Bill Russell. Robinson was signed by Cincinnati scout Bobby Maddock for $3,500, which was 10 times what it is worth today. He made his professional debut with the Ogden Reds in 1953. Robinson reported to Ogden on June 20th, where he played left field. Along with Cuban-born Lazaro Chico Terry, the Standard Examiner reported that they were the, quote, first colored stars to wear Ogden uniforms. Robinson started in a big way. On June 22nd, he homered over the 3-decker fence in dead center field, 420 feet from home plate. It was believed to be the longest ball hit in Ogden's Affleck Park. Some 2,500 people witnessed the home run. He topped it on July 16th with a 425-foot line drive home run. All in all, Robinson played in 72 games, had 94 hits and 17 home runs, while batting .348. And those are the only statistics they kept for the league in that period. During his time in Ogden, he received a great deal of praise. For example, Yankee scout Gordon Jones, a native Salt Laker, pronounced Robinson one of Ogden's 2 major league prospects and one of the finest prospects to come from the Bay Area since Joe DiMaggio. Robinson, he said, was truly a major league prospect. Jones said the other was Carl Wells, who went 19-6 with a 3.67 ERA. As it turned out, he wasn't a major league prospect. He played in 4 minor league seasons and never went above Class B. In terms of the other player on the team mentioned, Chico, 3 years older than Robinson, spent 53 to 55 in Ogden, and then played in 7 minor league seasons and never went above Class B either. Finally, the only other member of the 1953 Reds to go to the major leagues was infielder Dave Bristol, and I wished I knew which one he was in that picture. And Bristol went to the majors as a manager, managing the Reds, the Brewers, the Expos, Braves, and finally the San Francisco Giants. Robinson also was praised by legendary Ogden sports writer Al Warden. In a column titled Scouts Like Frankie Robinson, he described the young left fielder as colorful. I'm not sure what he meant. According to Warden, in the past few weeks, 7 big league scouts have cast their optics at Robinson, and every one of them has stamped approval. He quoted Jones that Robinson, quote, needs to polish up in his fielding, but that will come easy. He can really handle that stick and is a long ball hitter, the type major league clubs are looking for. Bobby Maddock really came up with a gem in Robinson. Finally, Warden observed, besides being a splendid baseballer, Robinson is also a fine young gentleman. He is a credit to the Reds and the Pioneer League. Another view comes from John F. Dad Gimlin, a longtime baseball man who was player manager of the Ogden Gunners in 1926. Dad, they always called the manager Dad, even though he's only 4 or 5 years older than the players, attended a day game. He said he didn't much like those newfangled night games, and he was impressed by both Robinson and Terry. He called Robinson some ball player and said Terry was a splendid shortstop. Unfortunately, along with praise, Robinson also experienced racism. In his autobiography, he noted, the McClymonds student body was mostly black, and therefore the team was mostly black. On the other hand, I was one of only 2 blacks on the Legion team. Coach Powles thought that's why Robinson was so painfully shy. But Robinson stated, I wasn't shy until I got to know people, not because I was black. I was never in a situation in Oakland where I felt being black made me different. That changed in Ogden. As he wrote in his autobiography, Ogden was in a Mormon state, and though I didn't know it at the time, the Mormon religion insisted that Negroes were inferior beings. I got my first taste of racial bigotry in Ogden. While the white players lived in private homes, Chico, Terry, and Frank shared a hotel room. Chico, he remembered, only spoke Spanish except for one word, coffee. As Robinson wrote, we couldn't even go to the movies because we were black. So we 2 outcasts spent most of our time lying around our hotel room. Here I was, a 17-year-old kid who had never been away from home for an extended time, depressed and lonesome. Robinson phoned his mother regularly, but said he didn't want to burden her. Basically, I kept telling myself, this is the situation. You have to just make the best of it if you want to play Major League Baseball. It kept me going, and I left everything else on the field. I wish I knew the reaction of the local black community to Robinson and to Terry, but I have not found any references so far. If people know of individuals I could talk to or other things I've missed, I'd like to hear of it. Still, Robinson was well liked by the fans generally. At the end of the season, along with his teammates, he received a set of luggage, a sweater and slacks, and cash awards, including a full share of $75 as a member of the Pioneer League's championship team. And along with Terry and Wells, he was a member of the league's all-star team. After the season in Ogden, he was sent to the Tulsa Oilers in 1954, also a Cincinnati farm club, but after 8 games was demoted to the Columbia, South Carolina Reds and returned there in 1955. Robinson remembered that at least there was one movie theater that allowed blacks, commenting in his autobiography that overall living in Columbia was much better than life in Ogden. That is until he went on the road, where he was treated to racial slurs, especially in Georgia. Again, baseball was his release. Robinson debuted in the majors in 1956. He had a great year and National League Rookie of the Year that season while hitting 38 home runs. He went on to an amazing major league career as a player. Over 21 years with 5 teams, he appeared in 2,808 games, had 2,943 hits, including 586 home runs and 1,812 RBI. He was the NL MVP in 1962. He won the Triple Crown in 1966, hitting .322 with 49 home runs and 122 RBI. He was the first player to win MVP in both leagues and was a 14-time All-Star. Robinson was also a major league manager with a not so good record, but he was the first black manager in baseball. Later, he was a team and MLB executive. In 1982, he was elected to the Hall of Fame on the first ballot with 89.2%. Why the others didn't vote for him is beyond me. At his induction ceremony, he said, "George Pals gave me the foundation I am still building on. I want to say to George Pals, thank you for all the youth of Oakland. I know they appreciated it like I did and still do." Many years later, I saw him at a Fall League game while he served as that league's commissioner. I said to him, "Mr. Robinson, I'm from a town you might remember." "Where's that?" he replied. "Ogden, Utah," I said. He smiled a bit when I said, "Things have changed greatly there. They have a fine stadium and they field good teams. You ought to come visit." He nodded uncommittally, and I don't think he ever came back. After that, Ogden returned to the Pioneer League from 1966 to 1973. The Pocatello Chiefs came here that year. Several good major league players played here during those years, including Bill Buckner, Steve Garvey, and Bill Russell, Steve Yeager, Bobby Valentine, and others. And this was not the basketball Bill Russell. The 1960 teams, 66-68 teams, were managed by Hall of Fame manager Tommy Lasorda. And that's Buckner, Lasorda, Garvey, and Bobby Valentine from left to right. The second important player in terms of Ogden baseball is Ricky Henderson. Ricky was born Ricky Nelson Henley, after the singer, on Christmas Day, 1958. After his parents' divorce, he moved to Arkansas with his mom, then to Oakland, where she married Paul Henderson, and he took that last name. Well, like Frank Robinson, he was from Oakland. Ricky, on the other hand, went to Oakland Technical High School. He played baseball, basketball, and football, which was his first love. His mom convinced him that a baseball career would last longer than a football career. And the fact that he had over 700 in high school perhaps made the difference. He was signed by Oakland cop and part-time scout Jim Gwynn. Shortly after that, he filled out a questionnaire noting that his greatest thrill in baseball was signing with the Oakland A's organization. And I found that on Ancestry. They have a collection of baseball questionnaires. Unfortunately, it doesn't include one for Robinson. He also told Gwynn he wanted to be the greatest Bates Steele that ever lived. He was. Henderson was the A's fourth-round free agent draft choice in 1976. That year, he played in Boise, where he hit .366, had 29 stolen bases, and 33 walks in 46 games. In 1977, he was in Modesto, where he hit .345, 95 stolen bases, and 104 walks in 134 games. And it was said, when Ricky got on base, you just assumed he would score. The next year, he played in Jersey City, where in 133 games, he hit .310 and had 81 steals and 83 bases on balls. He opened the 1979 season in Ogden, where, like Frank Robinson, he played left field. After 71 games with 44 stolen bases and 53 walks, while hitting .309, he was called up to the awful 1978 Oakland A's. They went 54 and 108 with very few fans. Three other players on that team, all pitchers, because that's what they needed, Mike Morgan, Brian Kingman, and Steve McCaddy, were also called up in '79. In total, another 18 teammates of that 79 team were at one point major leaguers. The average age of the 1979 Ogden team was 25, while Ricky was just 20. Over the years, Henderson was known as a character of the game, much like the above mentioned Casey Stengel or Yogi Berra. It was said of Ricky that he spoke in the third person. When asked why he spoke that way, he replied, "Ricky don't do that." He later admitted he did do it. He used it as a reminder. Ricky says it when Ricky doesn't do it, when what Ricky needs to be doing. I think it works. When told one time he could choose his seat on the team's bus because he had 10 years. 10 years, what you talking about? Ricky got 16 years. Well, many of those stories may be apocryphal, but they're interesting, fun stories. But he was just not a character. He was a great baseball player. Between 1979 and 2003, he played for 10 teams, including 4 stints with Oakland and 2 with San Diego. He compiled the following career statistics. He played in 3,981 games, 3,055 hits, 1115 RBI, 1,406 stolen bases, still the all-time record, becoming known as the man of steel. He set the single season record of 130 in 1982, and he also had 2,100 walks, 297 home runs, and a lifetime average of just under 300. He was a 10-time All-Star, won the AL MVP in 1990, was a Gold Glove winner in 1981, played on 2 World Series teams, and finally, without doubt, he was the greatest leadoff hitter to this point in baseball history. Ricky was elected to the Hall of Fame in 2009 on the first ballot with 94.8% of the vote. Again, I don't know why you would vote against him. And that same year, the Oakland A's named the playing field at the Oakland Coliseum Ricky Henderson Field. Now let's move to baseball that most of you perhaps know better, and that's the Ogden Raptors. The Raptors came to Ogden in 1994. That franchise was originally the Salt Lake Trappers, who relocated to Pocatello in 1993 as the Pocatello Posse, another Pocatello connection to Ogden, and came to Ogden the next year. The owner management included Dave Baggett, John Stein, and others. Initially, the Raptors played at Serge Simmons Field in Fort Buenaventura Park, which was named after Serge Benson Simmons, an Ogden High and Weber graduate who was killed in Vietnam in 1969. After that, they came to the recently constructed Lindquist Field, still one of the finest parks in the minor leagues. They were an independent team, but soon they affiliated with the Milwaukee Brewers and then the Los Angeles Dodgers. Some great players and several major leaguers came from those teams, Milwaukee and LA. Cody Bellinger, Prince Fielder, Dee Gordon, Bill Hall, Kenley Jansen, Russell Martin, Jock Pedersen, Corey Seager, and Ben Sheets, to name just a few. Of the 2021 40-man Dodger roster, it's changed a little bit since they've had some trades recently. 17 of those players played in Ogden, and 5 former Raptors were on the 2020 LA World Series roster. In their years here, they won 10 division titles, and they were the Pioneer League champions in 2017. Well, what does the future hold? Well, the Pioneer League is no more. It is now what's called an MLB Partner League. They will play a 96-game season from May to September. Sounds a little like a song to me, but Boise is out of the Northwest League and is in this Partner League. The Northwest League is one league that didn't survive. Orem, Ogden's closest rival in the recent years, has moved to Colorado, but will skip the 2021 season. The rosters here in Ogden will look very, very different than those in the past. I think there'll be fewer young Hispanic players. The team will be made up of college players, those with previous minor league experience, which is interesting, and possibly tryout camp signees. Many details still need to be worked out, and Dave Baggett and his staff are working on that now. It's fair to say it will be very different. That's what we know. Finally, in the words of historian Jacques Barzon, whoever wants to know the heart and mind of America had better learn baseball, the rules and realities of the game. And here's the part that doesn't usually get quoted, and do it by watching first some high school or small town teams. Stay tuned. Thank you very much for your attention. I look forward, if you have some questions, I've seen a few things coming on the screen. Yes, Colby, I do remember Ed Cedar, who was a manager a coach and manager in the big leagues too. So thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you. That was just what the soul needs at a time like this. And buy a hat right now instantaneously. Just send us your address and we will deliver it to you. and 100% of the proceeds go to creating more programming exactly like this, 100% the Weber County Heritage Foundation. So if you got Venmo, you just take your phone, scan this code right here, and boom, and include your address, and the hat is all yours. Totally exclusive to the Heritage Foundation. You can get them nowhere else. That's our Ogden pride. That's our level of pride.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and cracker jack. I don't care if I never get back. Let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball